Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza. And if this is your first time here, you could not possibly know, how could you possibly know, that I am on a mission to give you everything you could possibly need to be more successful in your business, providing, of course, what you need to be more successful in your business is to know more about and be implementing more efficiently, more enthusiastically, and more effectively sales and marketing in your business, because of course that's what you need. You need more customers more profitably, and eventually everything you need to do that will be here on this channel, and there's a lot here already, so go check that out. So if you're new here, you won't know that on a Monday I'm giving you everything I know about sales and marketing. That's the What the series on a Monday. On a Tuesday I put in anyone I can find with experience to share with you if you're looking to be more successful in your business. That's Talk Marketing on a Tuesday. Every other Wednesday, Melanie Farmer comes through and we look at the marketing news and speculate wildly about what it might mean for you in your marketing life, in your business. And on the other Wednesday, I review so you don't have to. Thursdays, you'll find me here thinking out loud. And on a Friday, we react to the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet. So if that sounds like it might be interesting or useful, please tell me it does. Then now would be the very best time to like, share, subscribe, and comment, because that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic journey. Now, if you're catching us on the day this goes live, it will be that Wednesday when Melanie Farmer comes through, the concierge of co-creation at Crazy Might Work, and we look at the marketing news and speculate wildly about what it might mean for you in your marketing life. Good morning, Melanie Farmer.
Good morning. Great to be here.
How are you, sister?
I'm really well. I'm doing very, very well. Very nice. I'm loving autumn. Autumn is just the most beautiful time in Australia.
It really is. In the Blue Mountains, it really is the most beautiful time. That's fantastic. Are we going to pretend that you're not struggling with COVID then? Potentially?
Yeah, I'm just going to pretend. Well,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen, I have an ill family member sitting in the next room having tested positive with COVID. So we're all waiting and seeing if I'm going to join the club. So a little bit early symptoms, we'll see. But at least I'm locked in my house like a good little girl.
Good. At least you are good. You're not infecting people. And we definitely don't want you infecting all those nurses you're supposed to be training on Friday. So we will see how that goes. Good. Thank you, you trooper, for soldiering through. You're an absolute legend. Okay, good. So we like to start with a boast. Do you have a boast for us this week?
You know, it's a boast on behalf of my husband, who just graduated with his master's degree on Saturday. So I feel like I can just pretend like I had something to do with it. And it was such a cool occasion to see him marching across the stage and enjoy all of the ritual that goes on with the graduation ceremony. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Fantastic. I've just realised I had the wrong microphone on, but I think we're going to be okay. That's good news. Well done, Mr. Melanie Farmer. Mark is his name. That's the only thing I know about him. So well done. That's really good news. My boast is for the longest time, have been meaning to get on some habits, some positive life habits, and start tracking them. And I started on Monday, and according to my scales today, they could be wrong. I might have lost 2 kilograms already in the first 2 days, which seems insane, but is extraordinarily motivating at the same time. I've been in the water taking photos. I've shared my photos with you. If people want to see my photos, they will find me at _supersharp on Instagram. So go and like me there. That would be really cool. I've been taking some really nice photos, so that would be really cool. That's the boast, but we're not here. Bless you. Thank you. So we're not here to talk about you having COVID, potentially, or Mark graduating with his master's, or me losing weight. We're here to talk about the marketing news. So what's appeared on your radar in the last, it's 3 weeks again, isn't it, since we've done this? Yes, what's appeared for you? Oh, I also didn't say I've taken a little holiday, and last week I was swimming with turtles and manta rays. I'm having a wonderful time here.
Man, that is like life goals, tick, tick, tick.
Isn't it?
What
really?
an amazing...
And it's all within about 40 minutes of where I am. It's insane.
You know that's how Steve Irwin passed away, was stingray swimming, manta ray swimming. Did you feel in any way like, I'm just going to stay right underneath them rather than go over the top of them? You weren't like manhandling them, I'm guessing.
We weren't manhandling them, but they weren't stingrays. They were manta rays, which are completely harmless. And when the manta rays swam within about 3 feet of me, I felt completely at ease and relaxed and no problem. Like manta rays are, but it was literally like 3 feet away. It was like this far away. You can't see how close that was. It was about this
Yeah.
times about 3.
Mm.
It was amazing. It was so amazing. But you're going to come visit one day and we'll take you to go and see them. They're not always there is the only issue. There is a little bit of jeopardy involved in it. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the marketing news. What's caught your attention, Melanie Farmer? And we know that the biggest story in the marketing world has completely passed you by. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. But what's caught your attention?
Look, because I work in the juxtaposition where innovation meets marketing, and Peter Drucker always said there's only 2 things in business, and it's innovation and marketing. So I kind of sit on the edge of both of those things. So I'm interested in both. Now, what I've noticed, three stories, and they're all related to the digital industry. So the first is looking at who's making profit globally. So McKinsey's report has just come out on that. Looking at the patterns post-pandemic and during pandemic, just to see who's winning and why, and sector by sector. And there's information that is just useful, I think, for any company in terms of where to maybe invest and what trends are happening. The second is at a more business level, chief marketing officers and their lack of confidence, essentially, in their strategies. So I think that the massive, I guess, change and evolution of what's possible in digital is starting to bypass chief marketing officers who are not confident. So something like 70% are not confident in their own strategies, and that is going to be a bit of a skills gap, and because things are moving so fast. And the third one is just a little one about just some tips from National Geographic about how to identify AI generated imaging, and they've got an extraordinary image which is pretty tricky to tell whether it's real or not real. So so that's sort of, I guess, an example of what would probably make a chief marketing officer even less confident in what they're doing. There you are.
Okay.
So
cool.
From macro to micro.
Excellent. So that's 3 interesting stories. My 3 stories are, the first story is what's gone on with Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light, which is the biggest story in marketing in the world. We'll get into what that is about. My second story is about Facebook having an ad systems error, which causes significant overspend on many accounts, which is interesting. It always causes overspend. It never causes underspend or undercharging, which is interesting to me. And then the third one you're going to enjoy, because Elon Musk is having to pay for a few of his favorite celebrities to stay on Twitter Blue, even after they dissed the new blue check. So I thought you would find that amusing. We're going to start with the one that is the biggest story by far and away, which is this thing about Dylan Mulvaney. Let's put us up there, and then we won't be in front of the subscribe message so people know to subscribe. So the story is, for those of you who haven't been paying attention, including you, Melanie Farmer, is Dylan Mulvaney is a transgender person transforming from male to female, and has been on quite a journey in the last 365 days. And basically, I can't remember what they call it. They call it a journey into womanhood or something like this. And to celebrate this goal, this landmark of 365 days as a woman, I mean, Dylan Mulvaney is doing fantastically well in terms of picking up sponsorship deals. So, for example, this transgender person was advertising sports bras for Nike. And anyway, to celebrate this goal, this landmark, Bud Light sent Dylan Mulvaney a can of Bud Light with their face on it. And Dylan Mulvaney came out and did an Instagram post. And then what happened from that is, depending on which reports you listen to, Budweiser lost somewhere between $4 billion and $6 billion off their evaluation. They were valued somewhere around 134 billion, and that went down to somewhere between 128 and 130 billion. So this is more fallout. The marketing executive is out amid far-right uproar. Now, I've been looking for everyone's reported on this, so I'm astounded that you don't know about it. But basically, the story here is, this is continuing. Alyssa Heinerscheid, Bud Light's vice president of marketing, has taken a leave of absence because after the brand was criticized and boycotted by far-right personalities for its marketing partnership with transgender TikTok star Dylan Mulvaney. Now, I mean, this is being reported by Forbes. It's interesting to me that Forbes have decided to say that this is basically far-right uproar, because basically everyone who drinks Bud Light has been really upset about this. So the story goes, she's being replaced. She's not going to be involved. This lady, I think we can call her a lady, Alyssa Heinerscheid. She presents as a female. So this is it. And I just want to share, Heinerscheid, who has worked for Bud Light since June 2022. So how long is that? 7 or 8 months, 9 months. Said in an interview with the Make Yourself at Home podcast, she intended to evolve and elevate Bud Light by having a campaign that's truly inclusive in an effort to attract younger consumers. She also said Bud Light was in a decline for a really long time and referred to the company's previous marketing tactics as fratty and out of touch. They haven't fired their entire marketing team, as has been reported. It is just this individual who's been there for 7 or 8 months who has gone. So that's the story. I should give you an opportunity to respond, because this really is a reaction, because you didn't know anything about this. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that. I think, look, I'm guessing what you're thinking about this, but my feeling is that it's just supporting what we found in the Edelman Trust Barometer report, which is that brands ought to be silent on things that don't make sense for them to be vocal about or have any kind of commentary about. I do wonder how it. I mean, I've got no problem with Dylan being. I think it's a kind of a nice idea, and then these things backfire, and this huge reaction happens, partly because of what's going on in the world around these matters, around gender, around transgender. So there can be just a huge reaction. I don't associate Budweiser with being a particularly progressive in any way. So, but either way, I think that it's just playing out that whatever you do, be silent on things that are not really in your wheelhouse.
Yes.
Because you're going to confuse people. And I think she's made a very defensive statement in saying that it's been on decline for many years. I don't know if that's true, but if assuming that is true, then fair play to her having a go at, turning that around. But I do wonder if new Bud drinkers would go, oh, look at that. They're embracing diversity and inclusion. I don't know how important that is for Budweiser future drinkers. But yeah, my feeling is it's just a case study supporting the Trust Barometer report, where one ought to be silent on things that don't ring true for the brand in question. So I think it's a mistake, but I do think it's a massive reaction. It's like, can't you just have a conversation? You're just throwing out this talent. You hired her for a reason. Why can't people make mistakes anymore?
Okay, good. I don't know what you're guessing. What I'm thinking is, I don't know if it's wise to do that, because this is sensitive to some people, clearly. What I'm reminded of is how fragile brand is. Like, we have the best example in the UK with Gerald Ratner, who famously buried his own brand when he stood up and said, we have... what did he say? He said, we have a trinket set made out of plate silver, that your butler can serve you whatever it is, aperitifs in the afternoon, all for less than £5. And people say, how can you make it so cheap? And I tell them, because it's total crap. And then he went on to say, I have we have earrings that cost less than a Marks and Spencer's prawn sandwich but won't last as long. And that cost his brand hundreds of millions of pounds in the UK. It cost him his whole business. We've seen, haven't we, with Kanye West has come out and completely demolished his brand with some unfortunate remarks that he made. And now what's happened here is all they did was send this person a Bud Light can with a picture of their face on it. And all that person did was put up an Instagram post, and $6 billion in valuation is gone overnight. So that's the first thing, how fragile brand is. The second thing is something that I've been saying for a little while, but I've been thinking about it because I know we've been going to have this conversation, is don't get political with your brand. Don't get political. Don't split the room has to be the message, because it seems to me we're living in very polarized times. We've got a very noisy end of the scale over here and a very noisy end of the scale over here, but nobody has any idea really. I mean, I hope they're thinking much more sensible things in the middle, but nobody has any idea what those people are thinking. And I think you're absolutely right. Budweiser is a very conservative brand, so it's not difficult to assume that those people are having very conservative thoughts. Do you know what I mean? And so probably don't want to be associated, or don't want their brand to be associated with this. And then the third thing, so don't get political, don't split the room, except maybe if you're a rifle manufacturer, then maybe it makes sense that you support the National Rifle Association. Do you know what I mean? So unless it makes absolute sense to be political in your brand, don't do it. It's just ridiculous. It's a throw of the dice. The third thing is... something, did you hear that? Something that seems to be... Okay, it sounded like it was my computer going... The third thing is, this person who is no longer this Alyssa Heinerscheid is 39 years old. Is somebody who's 39 years old really equipped to manage a brand like Budweiser or Budweiser Light? And it feels like, to me, this is something that's going on in our society, where all of a sudden we want to be giving young people the reins. And I don't see that young people are equipped to do that. And this is maybe another example of that. And then there was a fourth thing, which is, like, don't diss your market. So by describing her marketing, or their marketing, as in decline and fratty and spoilt, essentially she's talking about her consumers. Her consumers are saying, she's saying that basically our consumers are fratty and out of touch. Well, no, Mrs. Heinerscheid, they're not. You are. You were a long way out of sync. Well, not even a long way, because all they did was send this person a can of Bud Light with their picture on it. Do you know what I mean? And this person then just produced one Instagram post and boom. So I think 4 lessons there for anyone who's looking at this. If you invest in brand, firstly, but then know what a brand actually is the relationship that you have with your consumers. And that relationship is love or hate, and the line is very thin. You can disrupt that really easily. So actually, if you're a brand, it's an exercise in conservation of that brand. Secondly, don't do politics. Thirdly, don't give the kids the keys to the castle. And fourthly, like, you don't have to, don't dish your market. So there's 4 lessons, I think, in this. Thankfully, it cost Budweiser, Anheuser, whatever the parent company is, $6 billion. Hopefully it doesn't have to cost our listeners anything. And I'm not taking a position, because I'm also not going to do it. I'm not going to get political. You know, for me, all power to everyone, all freedom to everyone, up until the point that it costs other people, infringes on other people's opportunities to do well. There is a counter argument to this, which is this transgender person is taking opportunity away from women insofar as, does it make sense that somebody who doesn't have breasts is being given a contract to advertise sports bras for Nike? There is that whole argument, which I think also is interesting and valid. But I think those are the 4 big lessons. I've been talking a lot. I've been getting ready for this.
Yeah, man. I love those points. I mean, I completely agree with everything you're saying. And
Okay,
I
good.
think that it's a good rule book, to be honest. Like, you could write a book about this, that if you think
Yes.
about the things that you should, the do's and don'ts of politics and marketing. It's
Yes.
a book waiting to happen. And I
Yes.
think it's very much anchored in opinion, but there is plenty of case studies and data, and this is just one of the case studies you might have in your book. I feel
100%.
like that it is. I mean, when you think about that trust barometer report that just came out in March, the message in there, the overall headline around trust and brands from 2022 was that we are navigating a polarized world. So if you're navigating a polarized world, the best thing to do is to really know what lane you're in and double down. And as you've always said, like, add value, continue to add value. It's not a time to try experiments and surprise people in some form. Like, know what category you're in, know your audience, um, make them feel good about what they're doing, um, build confidence in who you are, absolutely knowing who you are. I think it's an interesting response from her, um, because it is quite. I agree with you about the fratty stuff. Like, that's quite a personal attack, and you think, why were you there? Why did you take that job? How has this journey played out, and that's now out there?
Yes.
What's your next role going to be, and what are you going to say about them when you leave?
Yes.
That's the challenge. I mean, saying that, there's some authenticity. She said, well, she's saying her piece, and we don't have a very authentic world these days. So there's always a one way or the other. But I do feel like it feels like she really probably wasn't a right fit for them. Um,
No. Well, the
and,
thing is now,
and
every frat
yeah,
house in America is now boycotting Bud Light, which was their their market. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's really easy to go, okay, every frat house in America gone. Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't think these comments on the podcast were in response to what's happened. I think this was her intent on the way in. And the podcast, I think, happened because she was gone pretty much immediately as soon as it happened. Yeah, I think interesting. And, we've seen this with M&Ms, and there's I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase, go woke, get broke. Disney have had issues. M&Ms have had issues. And the thing for me is, it's just really lazy marketing. It's like, exactly like you're saying, understand your value, deliver your value, communicate your value, deliver your value, evidence your value. This is just lazy. It's like, oh well, we could just send some beer cans with their face on it to a transgender person. It's just really, really lazy marketing, and I'm glad it's cost Budweiser $6 billion in evaluation. And the only thing that we haven't said is there's no such thing as bad publicity. I think there is such thing as bad publicity when it costs you $6 billion off your valuation. I think that's really bad publicity because you're only a hop, skip, and a jump away from everyone's now saying, well, Bud Light was always a crappy beer anyway. It's like, so it goes immediately to that.
yeah.
Okay, good. Let's go to your story number 1, which is, I hope I've got this in the right order. This is Working Hard for the Money, the crunch on global economic profit. So that's the headline. This is a McKinsey article. So what's going on here, Melanie Farmer?
If you would scroll down to, I think it's a third table, which says top 4,000 companies' economic profit pools by sector.
Right.
And next
It's
one,
a natty title.
next one after that one. I see. There's 2. Yeah, keep on going down, down, down. Where is it? Next one after that one, I think. It's further.
This one.
There, yeah. No, keep on going. keep on going. So there's quite a few graphs when I think about it. There we go.
Okay,
So
top
that
4,000
graph
companies, economic profits by sector, $1 billion.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. It's just when you look at these dates, remember this is just sort of, a whisker off the pandemic. And there are other graphs in here where it's sort of post-pandemic and there's a lot of narrative around this. But I think it's really important for any organization to, be polling what's going on in the world, just be across stuff, even if you are not in these sectors. It's useful and interesting to know what's happening in the rest of the world. And so, we've seen, I think summarizing, looking at all of this, you can have a lot of discussion about these numbers. The way that McKinsey unpacked these findings in terms of who's increasing and who's declining. And so in summary, like the blue is increasing, grey is declining, is that tech is on the rise. Great. Particularly in North America, not so much everywhere else. As you would expect, pharma and medical is continuing to rise, but more in America than Europe. Again, that's not a massive surprise with the numbers of, they really have their market and their industry together in North America. But the findings from all of this, when you unpack it, is the investment in technology and intellectual property are the two things that any organization needs to be doing to really achieve profit. So the question being, given that you've got such a diversity of, let's say, listeners, what are people doing with respect to investing in technology and intellectual property? And I know that there have been some interesting reports in my neck of the woods, which is, it's an interesting demographic around where I live, because there's a pretty high immigrant population. There's fairly a lot of manufacturing and pockets of advanced manufacturing, which will be investing in technology and intellectual property. And the ones that are doing research and development and investing in that IP, those are the ones that are outperforming others year on year. That's no surprise in the world of innovation. But I do think it's interesting how McKinsey have really unpacked this. And those are the two takeaways for, any sector is effectively saying where you need to be investing is in intellectual property and high tech. And when they unpack high tech, it's a lot to do with software and automation and those sorts of things. But more than that, things where you own it. You own that. You're just plugging stuff in from suppliers and vendors, that you're actually doing this yourself. And that's where you're seeing organizations outperform others. I thought it was interesting too in here looking at telecommunications, who have been really getting whacked around the head in the last few years. They're really suffering. They're the lowest in trust in Australia. I think it's like only 2 weeks ago, Australia reported that telco companies are the least trusted in our country. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, we've had some data breaches and things like that. But, what are all of these organizations, regardless of sector, doing in terms of investing in their own technology and intellectual property? Yeah, so it's just sort of, and one of the things that struck me, which I've always been interested in, is are we investing in adjacent sectors? So let's say that myself, I'm working in innovation consulting. What are we ourselves doing to invest in intellectual property and technology? So there are things that we're doing. We've built a think tank online and these cool tools and things that we own. But I think that's important for any organization can invest in these things, but not everybody does. There you go.
Okay, wow. You always bring the data, Melanie Farmer. It's so good. So what strikes me immediately, like advanced industrials is the only thing that's what I think you're that's what I think maybe McKinsey are alluding to, is advanced industrials is winning across the board. What strikes me is how North America is gobbling up all the profits across all these industries. Like, so high tech, pharma, consumer, the rest of the world is growing. Europe, not. Advanced industrials, everyone other, just North America. Media, just North America, and the rest of the world. And to answer your question, I don't think people are thinking about these things. I think they're thinking, I'm in this business, I need to make the best of it. Do you know what I mean? I don't think anyone is thinking, is this a good business to be in? Or is this a good place to be in this business? Because clearly the best place to be in business is in North America. But this is up until 2019, so it'll be interesting to see what's going on then. Since then. But it's interesting also because of what's happening with the dollar and, alternative finance systems. It's like, if all the growth is in the States, what impact is that going to have? But to answer your question, I don't think people think, is this a good industry to be in? And I don't think they think, is this a good place to be in this industry? Because what that data is showing is that there are clearly good industries to be in. And there are good places to be in those industries, which is essentially in North America. So if you're not in North America, in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm going to start counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of these 10 categories, in 70% of cases, if you're not in North America, you're in the wrong place. Like, you're not going to, like, it's lost profit by 10% in those places. And telecoms makes sense to me because it's so commoditized. Yeah, it really, really interesting.
Yeah, and look, I think what struck me, like, it's good to have a zoom out sometimes, even though you're sort of thinking about your own, your organization, your marketing and all that. What alarms me a little bit in this, and it's not surprising, but is that in the period 2015 to 2019, North America generated 30 times as much profit as the rest of the world. 30 times going across all of that. So it is really interesting. And then they do, without the data, they do talk about, like, what does this, because it only came out in April, they do reflect on what's happened since 2019. And even though they don't have the actual reports, they're talking about what they're seeing happen. And again, it is saying those who are investing in intellectual property. But I think what is interesting about all of this is that the business operating conditions in America, just having studied this for many years, this is what my master's was on, there's a lot of investment and tax incentives for organizations in that part of the world that are smart and that are working. In fact, so much so that, for example, Japan tends to copy the policies, even the regional policies, the city, urban policies around innovation and intellectual property, R&D investment. Japan tends to copy those. And it's not to say every country should copy, because each country is quite different. But they're outperforming in so many ways, including China, which, is sort of probably strongly representing rest of world. So yeah, it's quite, it just shows you what government policy can do in terms of economic growth and the success of your organization. So it, it's just sort of saying, be mindful of what are the policies. Have you looked at your tax incentives? There's another piece around educating business owners about being aware of those tax incentives, which many countries, they have these fantastic tax incentives and then just don't do a great job at letting people know that they exist. And so, it is at a big level what happens when policy works with respect to business growth. So it's not to diminish how smart and clever those organizations are, on how big that market is, and so you could accidentally succeed, but it is to me, speaking a lot to how well America has got their act together with respect to policies around R&D investment and support, and then how well they have that communicated to business owners. And so sovereignty in the US is doing pretty well.
Yes. And you can see this. I mean, in high technology, the States is making 58 times more profit than the rest of the world. In pharma, it's, 10 times. In consumer, it's 4 times. Advanced industrials, 3 times. I mean, they're losing money on, what is this one? Other, whatever other is. They're losing money on air and travel, losing money on materials, losing money on energy. Like, everyone's losing money on energy. Wow. Right, I'm going to go and have a good read of this.
Yeah.
This looks really interesting.
Yeah,
and
have a
useful
good read.
because I've got some work coming up with a telecoms company, so I think this is going to be interesting and surprising maybe to them as well.
Yeah, and
Good.
if you kind of it does talk about emerging implications as well. There's a bunch of stuff about, pandemic and, who winners and losers, keeping up with the big players, all of that. But I think it's my message here would be, go and have a look at, what you're doing with respect to investing in your own technology as opposed to vendor tech, what you're doing in terms of owning your own intellectual property rather than using other people's, and creating your own intellectual property, and understanding that if you have no money to invest in R&D, that's not so. Go and look at what the tax incentives are, because you might find that, that each country has their own incentive schemes. They want IP in their own country, so you might be missing a trick, and this is how America's winning. So get on board, really.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of the sage Simon Bowen, who is still my favourite interview on the Talk Marketing, even though it's 101 now posted. He said a business is all about the quality of the thinking and your ability to influence, and it seems like this is more evidence of that. Great story. I am going to read that more and use it more. Let's move forward on to my third story. Let's move us over here. Facebook ad systems error causes significant overspend on many accounts. This is what I've been saying for all of the time that I've been teaching digital marketing. If you are spending money with these platforms, you have to be religiously fanatical about keeping hold of your money and getting value for your money, because they are religiously fanatical about taking it away from you. This was reported by Social Media Today just this week. Many Facebook advertisers woke up to a shock on Sunday morning with a bug in Meta's ad delivery system, causing significant overspend on a range of accounts. What do they mean by significant, I wonder? They mean significant. They really do mean significant. Some ad buyers reported CPMs, that's cost per thousands, up 205 to 500% versus the previous day. While all ad performance metrics were seemingly affected, other advertisers also reported their ad sets well exceeding their daily set budgets, with no way to limit the damage. But it's all right, because Yoni Levy came out on Twitter and said, seeing everyone's messages, escalation sent, product and engineering teams are on it. We take these matters seriously. I don't have more information right now. When things go wrong, Meta has a history of making things right. Well, do they? Do they have a history of making things right? I'm not sure they do. They definitely have a history of being sued in court and having to repay money. There is $750 million going back, I think, to advertisers currently because of a system. It's a short story. It's just a reminder. Facebook, Google, they want your money. They want your money, and they don't care if you are if you get value from that or not. If you are investing in these platforms, you have to be religiously fanatical about getting value, because these platforms are just religiously fanatical about taking your money away from you. And as I said right at the beginning, it's weird, isn't it, how there's always an overspend. There's never an underspend. There's never an instance where they give people more clicks, or do you know what I mean? It never happens in our favor. And I would argue, because what they're saying is they've delivered credits, not credits, money. Put the money back in our bank accounts. That's not our bank accounts. I'm not advertising with Facebook. But put the money back in the accounts immediately. You're a tech company. You're supposed to be clever. You shouldn't be doing this. And then compensation. because I'm sorry, 200, 500%, that's not insignificant. That's significant. Like, that's significant, you know? So that's what I think about this story. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because this is the digital world, and I think I always think about what would that mean if it was in the analog world. It would mean that you walk into a shop to buy an apple, they sell you 20 apples, and you can't do anything about it. You
Yes.
just have to take the 20 apples and walk
Yes.
out having bought 20 apples that you don't need. So, yeah, that would technically be theft when you think about it.
It's theft.
It's like I don't need this. It's waste, is what it is.
Yes. Yes.
Um, it's wasteful and it's waste. Yeah,
No, I don't
it's
think it's
not
waste.
cool.
I think it's theft, and I don't think it happens. Well, I mean, I don't, I don't know how it happens, but what will happen 100% is in your country, in my country, somebody will appear in court today for stealing less than £5 worth of goods, and they will end up being found guilty of theft and doing some sort of punishment, depending on how many offences they've got. They might go to prison for that. Here, Facebook help themselves to 200 or 500% of the money that they've been committed to spend, and nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens. So, yeah, these people are only interested in your money.
I
These
mean,
platforms are only interested in your money.
yeah, I mean, I can see this sort of thing, becoming intolerable pretty quickly. Like it's not a good brand decision to allow that to happen. It's really questionable. What I do wonder what is going on in intensity, and you know, do the marketing divisions take that seriously, or are they? I mean, what's happening internally? I do wonder strategically. That's just you can't just the day comes when there's options, and the
Yes.
options are not going to be stay with this brand if this brand is so dismissive of and it is I do. If
Helping
I was
themselves
in
to
there, I'd be
people's money.
going, you do realize that's right, we can't just do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the question then is, how seriously do these brands take their marketing departments? I would say not very seriously at all. I've got an idea bubbling. I'm going to do a thinking out loud on how the internet ends, because I think it's something to do with this. I think it's something to do with the fact that it's concentrated on these 4 or 5 platforms. These 4 or 5 platforms are acting with impunity. They never really get held to account. And the option that's becoming more and more relevant, and I think it's starting to happen with people now buying what they call dummy phones, is people are saying no to the internet. We covered before 11 million people are being locked out of the internet in the UK. And those are people with money to spend, So I think it's interesting like that. I think something interesting is going to happen. The option will be very shortly not using the internet not being reliable or usable or useful. So yeah, I'm going to make that thinking out loud shortly. Shall we go to, this seems like a really beautiful segue, into your second story, which is CMOs of all people lacking confidence in their sales and marketing model. CMOs.
Yes,
Do the jazz
not
hands.
the
At least
customer.
pretend like you're confident. Do you know what I mean? This is what we do.
Yeah. Well, listen, this is an interesting story. I think there's two things that I took away from it, which I feel kind of want to talk about, I suppose. The first is the disconnect between sales and marketing in a digital world. That the ownership of the sales and marketing strategy. What they're saying in here is that this is not shared. That for the majority of cases, it's you've got marketing own this and sales own that. But as we know, with digital, sales and marketing kind of really are getting more and more wrapped around each other, and they should always be integrated, in my opinion. Um, because they're so connected. In fact, like if sales are not informing marketing, then you're missing out. Because sales understands the voice of the customer, marketing is guessing. This is my opinion. So I feel like
Yep.
the two together are unstoppable. So there is this sort of message in here about that these are not co-owned. That there's 40% co-owned with sales and marketing, but I feel like that should be 100%. And the data is sort of siloed between marketing and sales. So that's the first thing, is that I think, that the confidence grows when you are integrating sales and marketing. There's so much change happening. These guys need to be talking to each other. And I think the Budweiser story would have played out differently had sales and marketing been a lot more integrated at Budweiser, because the sales department would probably have said, I feel like sending this and this, doing this might be a mistake, marketing people. And then the second thing, and alongside integrating these, is that the growth of fragmentation within both, if you call them silos, marketing being one silo, sales being another, there's fragmentation even within those two functions. So I feel like there is a need to come together and bring these functions much more closely together. And so they're in it together, and that strategy is created together. And certainly the advice in here is about data, making sure that that data is aligned. We all get annoyed when we're getting sales calls from someone who you've unsubscribed to the marketing, and the sales didn't get the memo, and there's a disconnect. And then the next thing you know, we're throwing that brand under a bus and telling all our friends. So that is less likely to happen if these things get integrated far better. And we have the ability to do that. And I guess that's my thing, is like, the world is changing so quickly that you need to be in it together. This needs to be one team, sales and marketing. Yes. And that digital journey is so fluid. At one point, let's say you've got a sales process online, you're using chatbots, whatever you're doing. The customer is having multiple touch points. And I just want to give one example for me. 2 days ago is with my mobile phone. So I rang my mobile phone provider. I was on hold for 40 minutes before I got through. Meanwhile, every 5 minutes it told me to download the app and request help on the app, because it would take a 4-minute wait versus whatever wait I was having online, by calling. So I had the app, I had downloaded the app, and I had requested. So I had two journeys going in parallel. One was via the app, and one was ringing them. So I am on the app. There's a point to this story. The person on the app comes back, hey, can I help you? Very helpful, very helpful, very helpful. Didn't help me. Didn't actually understand what I was trying to say. It wasn't a complicated thing. Didn't do anything helpful. Continually said, wait 5 minutes while I look into this, and came back and said, I need more information. It really was not I just wanted to remove a credit card payment, remove a card from my account, which had been fraudulently used. I just wanted to remove the card, and it wasn't allowing me to do that. Can you please do it? And they were saying, I see that your card is there. I'm like, yes, and I would like it removed.
This was your cell phone company?
My mobile phone, yes.
Your mobile phone company. And we've just seen how telecoms are losing profit, like, hugely.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So 40 minutes later, someone answers the phone. So I say to the person on the app, all good, I'm now talking to a colleague of yours, whoever. And the person on the phone within 5 minutes fixed the problem, understood fully what I was saying, because they could have conversation verbally, and then it was all done and dusted. And then the app person says, can you please review my service, da-da-da. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? It's worth, what I learned was, I'd rather wait 40 minutes and have something fixed than have 40-minute interaction, which is what it was, of increasingly, mindless kind of, honestly, I was like, I don't know how else I can say this. Please remove this card. This card needs to be removed. I'm wondering how else I could word this. I have tried removing it. It won't allow me. And then the verbal conversation was, I see what you're saying. That's interesting and weird. It shouldn't be happening like that. Bear with me. Oh, I see what's happened. And yeah, I've never seen this before, says the verbal. And I love it when that happens because I'm not an idiot. And they go, yeah, this hasn't happened before. How weird. And let me fix it. And there's a bug and this and that. Fixed it. But that's very difficult to do in a bot with an app sort of vibe. Like there was a person on the other side, but
when you don't know if you're talking to a bot or a person, do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Okay, so I'm sorry, Melanie Farmer, we are not equipped to counsel you over your issues with your cell phone provider, who probably are making a loss. I think let's just go to basics. Most CMOs lack confidence in their sales and marketing model, study finds. And I'm not surprised because their sales and marketing models are shit. They are shit. Like your example is much more about the model is just failing to provide a service. Do you know what I mean? It frazzles my mind that these businesses are so quick to push their customers away and push their customers away and push their customers away and put bots in between themselves and their customers and put, online chat. Like, I am so rude to those people. I don't know if there's a person there or not, but what I end up saying to them always, every time I have to engage with a chat function, whether it's a person or a bot, is, are you on drugs? Why are you repeatedly asking me the same question? Do you know what I mean? It's because that's how it goes. And the key here is that these businesses don't have any respect for their customers, and it's why they're losing money, and it's why they will go out of business. This article is blaming this on one thing. For me, there is a virtuous cycle where your marketing understand the market. They produce the products, the pricing, the all of the stuff, with the hope that your salespeople will get the opportunity then to speak one-to-one to your market. That's the virtuous cycle. Sales then feed back in, and then you have something which is going to be effective. So the fact that these businesses aren't doing it, it's no wonder they don't. It's essentially what marketing are doing is throwing all of their resource into the abyss because they don't get any feedback. And we're supposed to be living in a world of feedback and marketing in a world of feedback, and they're not. Do you know what I mean? They're just not. This is just idiocy. This just is idiocy. And it's not to do with the data. It's not to do with anything. It's to do with these businesses miss the point of marketing, which is to serve a market. And every time a marketing person goes, oh, well, we can use a bot for that, or we can use AI to do that, or we can use whatever, what they're actually saying to the world is, we don't give a shit about our customers. So if you're not in the business of finding or attracting, winning, and keeping customers profitably, every business should be in that business, then it's no wonder 70% of CMOs, they don't know that that's the business that they're in. They really don't. They really don't. They really don't. Sorry, I got on.
Yeah, and I think, look, I think there's this addiction to widgets, like, being, the world of marketing is cutting edge, market leading, right? That's, you've been through university doing that. So for me, it feels like it's almost like we're a pretty trigger happy sector where it comes to new widgets, and not every new widget needs to be there. So do you need Instagram? Like, I remember this, back in the 2000s, early 2000s, saying Facebook showed up and it's like, do you need that? Does your customer listen, read, or watch this thing that you've just installed? So not everyone's on XYZ app, widget, so forth. So there is a trigger happy, like, oh, we must have XYZ account. We've got to have Pinterest. We've got to have this, that, the other. And so, but then integrating that data for me is sort of a more important discussion. If first of all, are your customers likely to, or do they listen to, read, watch, notice this new widget that you've installed? Is that adding value? We've talked about McDonald's in the past where they're putting a giant iPad inside the restaurant, which is more complicated than God. Why do it? Is this thing adding value? And then if it is adding value, your second job is it integrating with your strategy? Do you have the data? Is the data integrated? So I feel like this report's kind of talking to that, saying that you've now got all this stuff, good for you. You've got a buffet of widgets and processes, and you've no idea what's working, not working. So of course you don't have confidence because you haven't actually invested in that time. So in defense of the sector, it's running pretty lean at the moment. I feel like there probably has been cuts here and there, and if you're investing in all this tech and forgetting that you need to invest also in people who are going to make strategic decisions, then maybe there's a bit of resetting as a CEO. What you understand is important in marketing, and really it's going to be you want to make sure that strategic team from both marketing and sales, you've got the right team. That team's able to think sensibly enough, and then if you had to halve your digital budget, you probably would end up doing better in the end, because it's about you talked about Simon Bowen. Your quality thinking is more important.
100%.
And your bots can't do that for you.
No. And the thing is, these sales and marketing teams don't even know the very basic. You are there to identify opportunities to deliver value to the market. You are there to realize those opportunities to deliver value to the market. You're there to evidence that you are delivering values. So every piece of technology is just another opportunity for marketing people, especially, to be more lazy, to be more derelict, to be more, what's the word? AWOL, absent without lead. Do your job. Your job is to deliver this value. And every time you put in a bot and deny people the opportunity to actually engage with a person, you are diminishing that value. And I'm glad CMOs are lacking confidence. They should be. I think they're doing a shitty job. And what does this say? What this says is CMOs lack confidence in their sales and marketing model. That's their job, is to produce that. So what they're basically saying is the work that we do is shit. 70% of CMOs. Fire them. Fire them. Do you know what I mean? Fire them. They don't even know what the job is.
Yeah, it is a very much like I'm going to outsource my KPIs to a bot because I've been sold the Kool-Aid. And now I've outsourced my KPIs and I'm surprised that they haven't been delivered because I have no idea what's going on. I have no defense. So,
Fire them.
It's like, it's hard. Do the hard work. Do it. Yeah.
Right.
Don't outsource.
Do you have confidence in our little marketing news model?
Marketing news model, our little model? Well, there's humans involved, so that's a good start.
Yes. The thing is, it's like if you leave, do you know what I mean? Like, that is your job. Like, I can't imagine, it's a long time since I've had a boss, but I can't imagine ever going to my boss or a client and saying, I don't have any confidence in what we're doing. I would fully expect them to say, okay, then goodbye. Goodbye. Like, the bare minimum requirement is that, like I said at the beginning, jazz hands. This is why we're all performers, is because we do things that we have absolute confidence in, and we have to keep everyone busy until they start to work. Do you know what I mean? If you've got no confidence in your work, go away. That's what I think.
I'm more interested in the question of this 30% who are confident. So I would love to know a whole story about that. Let's hear the story about the ones who are confident. Why are they confident? What are they doing that's making them so confident? And I suspect it's because they're a lot more integrated and a little more strategic about things. But
or maybe they're just showing up and doing the work.
Maybe they're actually doing their job. Yeah.
Maybe they're actually doing their job. Okay, good. On a lighter note, Elon Musk is paying for a few of his favorite celebrities to stay on Twitter Blue, even after they diss the new blue checks. The story is Twitter CEO Elon Musk says he's personally paying for several celebrities to stay on Twitter Blue after they refused to pay $8 for a monthly subscription. Musk tweeted on Thursday evening, NBA star LeBron James, the Star Trek actor William Shatner, and the author Stephen King are among the chosen few. King, well, let's just say he's definitely not paying the $8 himself. He may be discounting it. I don't think he wrote a check for $24 for each of these, for these three people. King, the author, my Twitter account says I've subscribed to Twitter Blue. I haven't. My Twitter account says I've given a phone number. I haven't. He tweeted, you're welcome, namaste, is what Elon Musk says. Twitter this week rolled out its anticipated revoking of legacy blah, 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 blah. All I want to say about this is it's kind of interesting that Elon Musk realizes that Elon Musk is the human component in this, that then Twitter needs certain personalities to continue to function or be of value. Interestingly, what upsets me a little bit about this is that this is clearly an exercise in trying to make Twitter a better place to be. And when Stephen King and William Shatner and LeBron James, who are people who can clearly afford to pay $8 a month and get verified, if it has some way of creating resource to make the thing better, tackling the horrible hate speech that goes on, etc., then why don't these people just pay it, is what I think. I don't know what you think. I think you're going to think there's some hubris in this for Elon Musk.
You know, I'm thinking something really weird that you're not expecting, which is that on behalf of the Hindu community, it is really bizarre that he would say namaste, which technically means, as a translation, I salute the divinity within you, which he's now saying to Stephen King. It just distracted me, right? So that's just an interesting, you know, what is he doing? Anyway, so he's saying namaste to Stephen King. For me, it diminishes the value of the blue check mark entirely. It diminishes the voice that Stephen King is trying very clearly to express, which is that I don't want a blue check mark. I never did, I never will, and I've got one, and may I say I have not shared my phone number. I have not this and I have not that. But, you know, despite his clear intentions not to have a blue check mark, Elon Musk has made this executive decision that he gets one anyway. Now, why doesn't Melanie Farmer get one? You know, so what does this mean about other check marks? Are these people who are just like somebody fancies them so they get to have one and they don't have to pay? It's very elitist and weird. It's not fair. It's weird. No. So that's the way I look at it. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, the whole point of a check mark is pay for it if you want one. If you don't want one, you don't get one. And he's like, I don't care that you don't want one, Stephen King. I'm going to give you one anyway.
They are being paid for. They are being paid for, supposedly. Like, he is paying out of pocket. So they are still being paid for.
Okay, let me give an analog example. I walk into a fruit shop to buy my apple. I decide I don't want an apple. You chase me out of the shop and you force me to have a free apple. And take the apple. And I'm like, I don't actually want the apple. I came in for an orange or whatever. So it feels like that. He's actually forcing a free service upon a person who doesn't even want it. It's one thing if Stephen King would have said, I want a blue check mark if only I could have one. But he's actively saying, I didn't pay for this. Just so you know, everybody, I've not provided my phone number and passed the checks required to have a blue check, but I seem to have one regardless. And so it feels like a really weird kind of desperate result, you know, whereby you're getting chased out of the shop and given a service you didn't want. So that's what I think. It's a weird decision, and I do think it's interesting that Stephen King's very vocal about it. You know, because if he would have just said, "Oh, that's weird," and been silent on it, but the fact that he's been like, "Actually, I don't want one. I haven't provided my details. I'm not paying for it." Yeah. You know, why pay for him and no one else? And why is it okay for someone to have a check mark when they haven't provided their phone number? How do we know that is the real Stephen King? I thought you had structure and rules and stability on these things. And now you're saying, oh, occasionally I just decide, regardless of whether they're valid or not accounts, that I'm just going to go ahead and make them blue. What does that say about
they are
other
valid accounts, aren't they? Like LeBron James, William Shatner, Stephen King. Maybe they've done a personal verification, and so you have an issue with somebody being able to gift a blue check mark to somebody, like irrespective.
Against their will. If they would have said, "I want one, but I don't want to pay,"
is it? He hasn't said, "No, I don't want this thing. Do not give me this thing. Take it away." He said, "No, I haven't." He hasn't personally verified himself by paying the $8. I think that $8 is a really useful mechanism for making Twitter a better place. The other thing that's happened, I don't know if you saw this, maybe not, because we've established that you live under a rock. Elon Musk was interviewed on the BBC, and he absolutely destroyed the guy who was interviewing him, because the guy was like, there's been a rise in hate speech. I've experienced it personally. And Elon Musk says, okay, give me an example. And he couldn't. He absolutely couldn't. So basically, Elon Musk has been there destroying the BBC, and then he challenged them on misinformation around COVID, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Elon Musk is going up in my estimation. Elon Musk is going up in my estimation. This might be a blip, like having to gift your product to somebody isn't necessarily the coolest thing to be doing. But yeah, I thought you'd enjoy it. So that's why it was my story. Shall we go to your last story?
Yeah. So
yes,
my last one is it's interesting. This is not what you'd be expecting, but National Geographic, and they are offering up some tips to, I guess, identify if a photograph is real or AI generated, because it's getting better and better, the ability to do these things. And all
they are
organisations,
let me just stop you there so we can bring some game into this. They are inviting us to decide if this photo is AI generated or not. So let us know in the comments if you think this is AI generated or not. I'm going to go AI generated. You've read the article. Maybe you can let us know if it's AI generated or otherwise. It is, yeah. The depth of field is out for me, so that's how I'm seeing it. Like, this is much closer than this, but the same amount of blur, no blur here. Yeah, I think it's the depth of field that kind of gives it away. Good. So what else are they saying in this article? They're giving us tips on how to spot if it's real or not.
Well, I think just to scroll on a little bit, because I think that one you're looking at, if I'm not wrong, is actually a real photo. It's the one to the right of it that is AI generated. Yeah, if you scroll down a bit,
this one and this one.
The one on the left, the one on the left is real. The one on the right is AI generated.
Yes.
Now you've got us covering the one on the right, so people watching won't be able to see. And
okay, let's put us in the middle.
What they invite us, they're saying, look at the eyes. The eyes. Look at these two pictures. They both look real at a glance. They look amazing, these two photos. The one on the right, they're saying look at the eyes, and it's hard to get light and reflection correct where it comes to eyes. And so if you really, really look, you can see the eyes. There's something not quite right in there versus the first one. That one above, I'm not sure. I didn't even look at that one. I was just looking at these two side by side, left and right.
Oh, so I think this one they're actually saying it's real, but it doesn't look real. Here's the issue. Yes?
Yeah, well, I think it's the fact that we are busy, so we don't have time to do this. Sit down and go, let me analyse this photo in 10 different ways. So, but it is an invitation from National Geographic to saying, before you start tweeting things, do your homework and think a bit more before you do this. So I like that somebody from National Geographic is asking us to think before we tweet. Never mind whether it's to do with an AI image or not. Just do your homework and check a little bit before you do it. Anyway, go on. What do you think about this?
Here's the issue. Okay, so we are busy people, is what you're saying. We are too busy to actually source an original photograph, so we need AI to create fake photographs for us. It might be inconvenient that people aren't actually being arrested when AI can generate a photo for us of those people being arrested, etc., etc., etc. The mission of sales and marketing, the first mission is to identify opportunity. Once you've identified that opportunity, developed your product, etc., etc., the first mission of go-to-market is to win the trust of your potential prospective customers. And AI is challenging trust on every single level. How do you know if something's been written by a person? How do you know if something has been produced, photographed by a person or painted by a person, or if there's a person on the other end of the chatbot? The first mission when you're going to market is to win the trust of your market, and AI undermines all of that trust. So it's going to make it harder and harder and harder to get your customers, your prospective customers, to trust you. And the answer, and the reason is because we're all busy people. We're all busy trying to win people's trust, because we're all busy undermining people's trust, because it's a death dive to the bottom. It's insane to me. And the thing that's interesting about this is it's us. It's marketers who are the most guilty. Do you know what I mean? It's to make our lives easier, to get people to buy shit that they don't want or need, to make it easier to do that. The yin and the yang is just so obvious and so melded. Do you know what I mean? It's like ridiculous. So National Geographic, bless them, have done an amazing job forever bringing nature to us. It's good. It's right probably that they're saying, look, just be careful. Yeah, that's what I think is. It's interesting. It's marketing is making marketing more difficult, as if it's not difficult enough when you don't know what you're supposed to be doing in the first place. Do you know what I mean? It's just insane. It just becomes like so meta, and it just goes down and down and down and gets darker and darker and harder and harder. That's what I think. And it's because we're lazy. That's all. It's to make it easier for us. Just to make it easy for us, because things need to be easy for marketing people.
So for me, I was showing this not so much to say, the marketing sector is using AI. I was more saying that customers and others are not able to understand that something's AI and not AI, and ourselves as well, that we will tweet something and say, I've just read this thing and it turns out to be fake. So it's the spreading of inaccuracy by brands
marketers
themselves. Well, like, for example, if I know a couple of brand managers who have made the error of sharing something that turned out to be fake. So it's the brand themselves not knowing when something's true or fake, not that they are themselves creating it. So I'm saying that it's actually more, for me, the message is more, things are getting so sophisticated that we ourselves are getting duped, and we ourselves probably want to take more than 1 second to go, hey, is that real? In general, we are doing that. We're getting more mature in that regard. But you've probably seen the video of Keanu Reeves making a cup of tea floating around the internet recently, which is not Keanu Reeves at all. And if an organization or a brand manager and so forth was to comment or tweet and not realize that was fake, it's saying just take the time to stop and is this real or not real? Just in every case, before having an opinion about things. So we are a bit trigger happy, of course. So it's. I mean, of course, it'd be nice if we would all be better and send out less fake things. I get the idea that it's actually cheaper and easier to do it yourself, but it's more the user and the sharer to be mindful of that. But it's also that, going back to that first story around the middle story, chief marketing officers not having confidence. This is partly why that there's stuff like this that's possible now, and where's the data, etc., where they don't even know what's real, let alone what's working, and that the data's all over the place. So in defense of chief marketing officers, this is a really weird world, because deep fake wasn't a thing not so long ago. So I'm sure that there was fraud and whatever, misleading advertising forever and a day. But now it's just getting that much harder to even know what's real. So I have some sympathy for CMOs doing that. No wonder they're overwhelmed and uncertain, whatever. But yeah, so that's sort of a demonstration of what our CMOs are dealing with right now, is they don't even know what's real and what's true.
Yes. And all I'm saying is, this is the situation. And what I'm saying is, don't be contributing to it. And don't be contributing to it, especially because you're lazy. That's all I'm saying. I'm taking everything you're saying.
Totally.
And the thing is, it's going to be impossible to discern very, very quickly. We are going beyond the truth. Nobody is going to know what the truth is in about 20 minutes, because this stuff is so good already. and has developed so quickly in the last 6-7 months that you can't even imagine where it's going to be in 6 or 7 months' time. So the issue is, if it's too complicated for people to understand, they won't understand it. If they don't understand it, they won't trust it. We are in the trust business. We are in the trust business. We are putting our hands up every day and saying, trust us to resolve your issues, to provide solutions for your problems. And if people can't trust anything at all, then that is the death of marketing. There you go. We've covered the death of the internet and the death of marketing, all in 1 hour and 15 minutes. So we went long today when we were going to go short. But I think some really interesting news.
Yeah, interesting. Oh,
and some really interesting speculation. And 100%, one thing that's going to be completely useful to me in my actual work very soon. And one thing you've reminded me of that's also going to be really interesting to me in my actual work, which was 2 instances where you bought the receipts, Melanie Farmer. You bought the data to tell us what's actually going on in the world. So bless you for being here. So all we need to do now is say goodbye for the benefit of anyone who's still listening. Don't go away. We'll say goodbye like proper human beings after we've stopped recording. So if you found this interesting or useful, now would be the second best time to like, share, subscribe and comment, because that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic journey. Melanie Farmer, you are an absolute star. Thank you for being here again. Thank you for being the trooper that you are. Thank you for soldiering through the possible COVID outbreak that seems to be localized in your house right now. You're an absolute star. Thank you for being here.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you for taking the time to check out this episode of Marketing News. If you found this interesting and useful, then YouTube thinks you're really going to enjoy this, and this is the last thing that we've posted. If you haven't yet, and you could take a second to like, share, and subscribe and comment, that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic journey.